Rugby World Cup 2021, folks. Quarterfinals are all in the bag. We'll go through some key events and stats, and the birds on my roof are just going to keep chirping away. None of these games are particularly close, with only USA managing to get into double figures. The other teams, try for the Aussies, penalty each for the Welsh and the Italians, and all pretty convincing. But I do think we have some pretty tasty semi-finals coming up. The French and the Italians, 39-3, like I mentioned, to be kind of expected. The French fullback, Boulard, is just phenomenal. I think I've been watching women's rugby just long enough to see her. I think she made her first Six Nations debut, was it 2 seasons ago? And she immediately looked the part, and she's just gotten even better. Her kick return for the first try, she sets it up, is absolutely just next level highlight worthy stuff. France did miss a penalty a wee bit later. The Italians got one to make it 7-3. As far as scoring goes, that's as close as the game got. France had a close call with the TMO, but one of those kind of head contact ones where if you've bent at the hips and got your technique right, you don't get pinged. So they managed to get away with one of those, which I think is the way the game is supposed to be officiated. So that was, I guess, kind of pleasing to see that kind of consistency. The Italians had a yellow card before halftime. France opted for a 3, which is kind of, I guess, credit to the way the Italians were defending. But I mean, 10-3 at halftime, and that's despite France having like 65% of the ball. So yeah, Italy hanging on in that first half, but tough for them in the second half. I mean, Italy, they restart the thing out on the full, which is not going to give yourself any field position right. So not what's needed. And a few minutes later, it looked like the French number 8 had gone over, but she'd knocked it on over the line. But I mean, it was coming. Bouillard also had one where she knocked it on. She didn't knock it on, but there was a knock on in the build-up. But I mean, eventually there's a scrum penalty try. There's a maul try. Grise's one out wide. It's tries in multiple different ways. You got kick returns, tries, mauls, penalty tries. The French looked the business, man. Run meters 642 to 220, position 60-40, territory 69-31, defenders beaten 23-6. Pretty dominant. Their matchup against the Black Ferns looks very, very tasty because the French are really a full package team. The Italians, obviously, they go home now. Solari made 20 out of 20 tackles, so not a bad effort from the midfield. But good on them for making the quarterfinals. It was by no means guaranteed, but they did it. So obviously they'll be disappointed to go out. They'll be disappointed not to get a bit closer, but things are still building in Italian rugby. The number 8 for France had like 3 turnovers in that game. She almost had a try draw and had like 4 defenders beaten, so not bad as well. The Black Ferns in Wales, 55-3, again pretty dominant. Interestingly, unlike the French, the Black Ferns game doesn't rely as much on set piece. I don't think they mauled it at all, which concerns me a little bit because when you see Canada, you see England, and even to a lesser degree France, all these teams love a wee maul. I think if that's an area you wanted to test the Black Ferns, I don't know, that may be a bit of an Achilles heel. We'll have to wait and see. The Black Ferns passing game, though, is pretty much second to none. They're very hard to contain out wide. 7-0 for a try early. Wales did get a 3, so like the first game, it was 7-3 for a while after about a quarter of an hour. But I mean, the Woodman and Tui combo from a cross kick made it 12-3. Tap and go, hit and he went over on the right wing. 19-3. Woodman, big line break. Jazz Joyce did pretty well to stop her. Even if she didn't complete the tackle, she at least slowed Portia Woodman down. But still the Black Ferns managed to score from the line break anyway. So 26-3 at halftime. Similar to the first game, Black Ferns have had 64% possession in the first half. So it's been pretty one-way traffic with the Black Ferns, putting on a pretty decent score. Second half, it's more of the same. Wide ball, great pass to Woodman, 33-3. New Zealand did have a big old scrum on 47 minutes, which was a bit of a marker after not having the most convincing set piece at times in this World Cup. But I mean, they managed to get a penalty. They tapped it, went over for a try. They really wanted to play quickly, so that's playing to their strengths, right? Bremner got one after some phases when the Black Ferns went wide. Wales got a yellow card, which didn't help. Man. The Black Ferns just piled on some points. So 55-3 is maybe not the test they would have liked going into what's going to be a very, very tricky game against the French. But man, as I said, the Black Ferns play some bloody entertaining rugby. They're a hard team to dislike because they just have a go at everything, don't they? Possession finishes 56-44, territory 60-40, run meters 778 to 171, clean breaks 12-2, defenders beaten 48-9. Goodness gracious me. Woodman has 148 meters, 10 defenders beaten, and 5 clean breaks. She's like a generational player, man. Alex Callender continues her good defensive shift for Wales, though. She makes 18 tackles. She does miss 4. Alana Bremner has 15 from 16. But yeah, it's weird to see just such different styles, eh? But those two teams will meet each other in what should be a very interesting semi-final next week. England and Australia, 41 points to 5. I guess kind of goes to be expected, although it was raining. Oh my goodness, it was raining. I lived just down the road from that stadium where this game was played, and I can confirm, like, my front yard was looking like a swimming pool. It was just absolutely piddling down. And that maybe suits England because they love them all. They love them all. Australia, I guess, just struggle to maintain that big English forward pack. I mean, Hunter gets 1. Marley Packer gets 3. Like, yeah, she was on absolute fire. Ward got 1. Matthews got 1. Like, it was just very similar to the first two games. Like, possession at halftime was 68-32. It's very similar story to the first two games where you've just seen one side just kind of squeezing the other side out of it, and kind of unlike the French and more like the Black Ferns, the English managed to to put on at least 3 tries before halftime. Credit to the Wallaroos though, like they did get that 1 try through Chancellor right as it was looked like they were dead and buried. They got the try right before halftime. Like they were looking, as I said, they were looking well out of the game. What was it, like 17-0? So at least they kept themselves maybe within touching distance, but then second half kind of regular service resumes. So yeah, still not quite at that same level. 41-5 is a big result. I mean, full-time possession 66-34, territory 59-41, run meters 442 to 158. Packer has 5 defenders beaten 60 meters and wins 2 turnovers. She does a bit of everything as well. Grace Hamilton 17 from 18, 2 turnovers for the Aussies. Goal kicking for England, not great. That's one area that maybe they, like if you're going to play a close game potentially next week or in a final, you want to be getting your goal kicks. So it's not been a really flash area for them. And they're going to play Canada, who beat the Americans 32-11. Same ground. Didn't seem to be as wet. As I said, the rain kind of eased off because I was here. The rain eased off for that second game, which was probably pretty welcome because the first game was played. It was like a swimming pool there as well. The USA pressured early, to be fair, and they got the first points. Ketlinski went over to actually get a lead for the losing side, which sure as sunshine did not happen or even get close to happening in any of those first 3 games. So good on the States for that. But I mean, Canada, their maul's pretty tidy, their maul, and then it was Hunt who kind of picked and go on 16 minutes. Paquin got 1 from a chasing of a grubber. I mean, 12-8 at halftime is at least kind of close, similar to the first game where it was close. But I guess similar to the first game, Canada's class shines through. I mean, Paige Farris gets probably the try of the weekend. The left winger with some pretty fleet feet. That's maybe game when it's 19 points to 8. The US to kick a penalty, but I mean, they get yellow carded for a head-on-head, and it's Kelter as well, one of their kind of key players in the midfield. So Canada punished them, and 32-11 ends up being pretty comfortable for the Canadians at the end of the day. So yeah, man, possession 55-45, territory 57-43, run meters 484 to 392, mauls 8-3. It's certainly the closest of the 3 games, but at 30-11. It's still not that close. But I do think you have the best 4 teams remaining. I would still say England are pretty decent favourites over the Canadians. But Black Ferns and France is going to be absolutely fascinating. I think that could go genuinely either way. Obviously, the Black Ferns at home. and with their exciting backline, but maybe the French have got a slightly more complete game. Defensively, they're certainly a very good outfit, so the Black Ferns will need to be ready to not just be able to break like 50 tackles in a game, because that's not going to happen against France. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. I guess the smart money or popular money would be a Black Ferns England final. Can you see the Canadians or the French putting a spanner in the works? You guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon.